It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Well, happy Monday, everybody. Or is it? Nielsen, Gage, and Cass back with you once again. Two Guys and a Goalie on the Nielsen Media Cool Bet Network. This is Game 7 tonight in the National Hockey League. We'll talk about that a little bit later on here, and you can go bet it right now over at coolbet.com. Huss has a little exclusive set up in the Lock Shop exclusives area, so we'll hit on that a little bit later as well. I will say this, boys. We are having this episode earlier than I thought we'd be having this episode. Gager, it's a little weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a good day. Like it feels awful. Like, you know, you have Mother's Day and you got the game that night. It's way too late, first of all, which was upsetting. And it's a Monday. It's kind of nice out, so I don't know. In Edmonton, you kind of come out of that winter cocoon, right? But sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of hockey still when you come out and start doing that yard work. And it seems like it just happened a little too quick for us this year. I didn't know if they'd win, but I thought it was going to go a bit longer.
A little bit more of a sustained run here. I would agree with that thought process as well. Cass, you guys probably could have gone, 5-6 hours last night on the post-game show or what?
I was telling you, we were still getting people calling in. Like Jeff had to shut the phone lines down at like 12:40 because it was still just rolling. Like it was a late one. It was a late one, and a lot of people frustrated and upset. Understandable. A lot of people still hopeful. And
there's reason to be. I mean, that's understandable.
It's like, listen, the disappointment is I think real and fair. Boston had the best team in regular season team in NHL history, and they got bounced in the first. Toronto got bounced in the second. Colorado got bounced in the first. Like, it's really, really, really hard to win in the NHL. It's really, really hard to win in the playoffs. I think the disappointment from not making it to the Western Conference Final is fair, and I think it's even more fair because you look at how things shook out or have been shaking out in the East, and you're like, there was an opportunity here. There was a real opportunity here. And I don't want to say Vegas was the last hurdle in the West, but they certainly are, maybe quite possibly the biggest hurdle that Edmonton would have had left in the West to come out of the conference. And you lose to a team that had a $96 million.
Yeah.
Are you going to the payroll? We're going to the payroll right away.
We had some people bring it up. I don't want to go there right away, so let's not go there now. But at some point, we have to talk about it. So
I feel like that's like an off-season discussion, hey? Like maybe Thursday discussion. Maybe we go Thursday discussion.
Thursday,
because the NHL is not going to do anything about it. But
no, they're not.
We've got lots to unpack. There's no doubt about it. Gager, what went wrong last night? But I mean, we're going to talk about the overall series, the bigger picture, and there's a lot to discuss there. But as far as last night's game go, fall behind 1-0, get back up 2-1, and then the second period, they couldn't get any shots on net, and Marchessault was basically allowed to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, it was the same thing that plagued the Oilers, I believe, at the beginning of the year and reared its ugly head at certain points, but it's like that 3 to 6 minute span where it seems like everyone, they lose the game or something happens and they just can't, and I don't mean even turn things around and go back the other way, but just not allow the other team to take complete control of the game. That's 2 games where I felt like the Oilers had it well in hand and just great play by the other teams. And that happens in games when you're playing against great players. Like they raise their level to a whole different stratosphere that it's not sustainable, but you can do it. And the Oilers just didn't match that. And gosh, you just look at the defensive play of the Knights. And I mean, we'll probably get into the whole suspension thing, but Pietrangelo is a phenomenal defenseman. Like, he is just so good. The Oilers just didn't have an answer to them. They didn't have I love the way that they scored the goals. The Knights just getting pucks to the net, looking for for any sort of crap garbage goals. Like they wanted to score just trash, right? I find that I hate when the Oilers try to make everything just look like so perfect and have the goalie on the other side and looking for these open nets. I think they're always at their best when they establish that just getting pucks and letting their skill take over from second chance opportunities, because I think it's way easier to defend. They kind of played into the Knights' hand there, but they were just better. They were much better, I think, overall in the entire series. There's so many things though, Dusty. Like you look back to those two crappy games that they lost that they didn't show up for, right? Like
Yeah,
that's a huge missed opportunity. This one, I think the Knights were better, but they didn't give themselves the best chance to win this series. I think
Edmonton was better in the first period, though, Gager. They were by far away the better team in the first period, and then they just took their foot off the gas. They stopped hitting. They stopped getting pucks to the net. They stopped skating and moving their feet out of their own zone. They turned pucks over all of a sudden at the blue line, at their own blue line, in their own zone, and went to the, we're just going to try to rim it and hope it gets out, and rim it and just pass the problem along to the next guy instead of actually making a resolute play. So even in this one, I mean, the other two games, Gage, I agree with you. They did it to themselves. In this one, they did it to themselves. We had so many texts and calls coming in, and we'll talk about Skinner and Campbell.
yeah.
But they're just 100% pile on Stuart Skinner as if it's only his fault. And I'm like, listen, I get two of those goals he had no chance on. Zero chance on. They were complete breakdowns by the rest of the team. He had zero help. Two of the goals, would you like him to save one? Absolutely. But there just were, as you said, Gage, there are so many little things that just kind of compiled and built into like these big things. And that to me is the story of it. As I, drove home yesterday and chewed on it a little bit today. I'm just like, you had just a ton of really, really little things that ended up adding up into big things. And that's what ends up costing you. Like yesterday, Ekholm's penalty, little things.
Stupid
It's a
penalty to
penalty.
take. It's a
Terrible
penalty.
penalty to take, and that's a boarding 100%. If he just waits to engage till he's a foot
Just
from the
rides him
wall,
in.
rides him in, you have the same outcome. You can still knock him off balance. You can still make a play on the puck, and even from a positioning standpoint. And he's a defenseman, so they're good at this. Ekholm's really good at this. If he goes stick on puck there, so he leads in instead of trying to crush the guy, if he leads in with his stick on the puck to stop him from making a play to the middle of the ice, you force the puck up the wall and you can still run the guy over, except he's a foot from the glass and you're not going to get a penalty for it. And that, I mean, ultimately it ends up being the play that costs you, because that puts you in a situation where instead of being 4-4 for a little bit and then getting a power play opportunity, now you're killing again.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know Yamamoto was out of the box, but that was a power play goal. He wasn't involved in the play yet, really. So just so many little things that you can add up and you got to learn. I wouldn't mind talking about it. And you got it here, Dusty, because I think this leads into it quite well. And it's something that, we had a couple texters that brought stuff up, and me and Tom were talking about, lessons learned. Like what lessons do we hope the players learn from this? So I want to get your guys' opinion on it, because I think, for Stuart Skinner, the lessons to me are obvious, is that the level of your game has to be raised even more in the playoffs. And you can't just be average in the playoffs. Like for him, he's got to learn and learn how to deal with the grueling playoff schedule. I mean, he's got to learn. He's a rookie goalie. So we know he's going to learn a lot. But what I wanted to ask you guys, and I think is a really good conversation to have, is what coming out of this, do we hope that the Edmonton Oilers' top 6 players, in particular McDavid and Draisaitl, what do they learn from this? What did they learn from this series? What are their takeaways here? What are they actually now? Sorry, maybe let's break it into two things. Number one, what do we think they're going to learn from it? And number two, what should they learn from it? Like, what do we hope they learn from it? Because those could be two different things.
Gage, you go ahead, buddy.
This is God, that's a good question, guys. I hope that they learn that they can't outscore their problems in the playoffs. Like they can't always go back to that. That has to. I wish they learned that the level of play required to beat a team like the Knights is it game 4 that they won, where it was just they got under the skin of the Knights. They caused Pietrangelo to take that slashing penalty. Like, it was just they completely got into the heads of the Knights that game, and it was all because of just consistent forward checking, like you said in the first period, Cass, moving your feet, being like just that pest, playing between the whistles. And I was like, okay, the game on here. Now they've gotten to the heads, and they had it for bits, but that's a hard style of play to play. Like, it's very difficult, but to be successful, that's what they have to do. And attention to detail, like just the little things.
That's the big one, Gager, because
that's the big
overall they weren't getting peppered and shit kicked, but it was these small mistakes that killed them time and time and again.
You look at the goal, and this and I'm so happy you said that, because to me this is it, and this is where it's like I hope there's not a separation between what they should learn and what they will learn, because to me what should they learn is that margin of error and that detail in the defensive zone in particular has to be better. It has to be better. Look at the goal that was scored. Was it the first Marchessault goal where
that was the one where he was allowed to? Yeah, he was left all alone.
Yeah,
he went right down the middle.
He was left alone. Well, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had him at the point. Marchessault starts to step, so Nuge lets him go, thinking that Draisaitl is going to pick him up. Draisaitl thinks Nuge is going to take him, takes a turn. So instead of stopping and coming back, he takes a 3 or 4 foot turn. But that 3 or 4 foot turn takes him out of position, so he's 2 steps behind and he can't get there. Little details like that. And again, Draisaitl was up until game 2, he was the best player, I think, throughout the league in the playoffs. Pretty hard to argue, he did. But even for that, and for all he did offensively, there were some moments defensively throughout the playoffs that he made mistakes. And that margin, especially for those top guys, when you're playing against the other top guys, that margin is so narrow. Like, where can these guys improve? How can Draisaitl get better? How can McDavid get better? It's just like that, just that little bit of extra attention to detail defensively in your own zone. To me, I mean, Gager, it was. I love that you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that first goal, it bounced off a skate too, right? Or the Marchessault first, but it's
the first one
creating
but then right over to him, but he was wide open, right? Like,
he was wide. He should have had someone there, and
he should have back down with him. Yeah,
it was a great tip by Barbashev. Like, I don't think he wasn't trying to put it to Marchessault.
He was just trying to get a stick on it.
He was just trying to get a stick on it, but a great play nonetheless. Like, to change the angle of it to create something, either a rebound or a chance, and it ends up being there. But for Draisaitl, I mean, that's his guy ultimately.
And even the second one that Marchessault scores, the attention to detail of knowing where the danger is going to come from, right? So you have Nurse, I think, three guys on the other side.
Did I send you guys that photo? Because I sent it. I sent it to,
was that with the 3 of them on one side of Skinner?
You
didn't send that to me, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
maybe that was just Tommy. I sent it to. I sent it to Tommy because we weren't sitting beside each other at the game. He kind of was down, and I was down in another area in the press box. But I sent it to him. I'm like, unlucky bounce? Absolutely. Does normally that go out of the player, go behind the net? Usually it does, right? It was a weird bounce, like even off the equipment. Normally it doesn't bounce that way, like where it comes back down. But you had 3 guys all stuck over there. 3 of them. And this is what happens. Like you can see if you watch the video, you can see like 3 heads all go like this at the same time, and 3 bodies all turn the same way at the same time, where the danger's behind them. Mm-hmm. The danger's behind them, and you had like the at least somebody, one of them needed to be saying, "Where's a guy here?"
I was going to say, instead of like, "Hey, where's that puck?" They got to be thinking, "Where's the guy?"
Someone has to be thinking, "Where's the guy?" Because if the puck, if the puck is even on, like, let's say the puck doesn't go up from rebound. Like, let's say, the puck gets hit and it goes down in front of Skinner, or it goes to the side. Well, they still had 3 guys caught on that side of the net, and someone still would have been wide open back door. So even if the rebound goes in a different place instead of up, like let's say that shot comes down low and that puck ends up sitting there, it's a goal anyways. So yeah, they're just
you gotta have trust in your goaltender in that situation to give him Like he's looking at the puck. You already got him looking for the puck. Like you got to make sure take some sticks at that point. Just eliminate a stick for a second chance opportunity. That's their main job in that and that happened far too many times. I think too many guys trying to do other people's job. Right? Just do your own. Okay, yeah. It was a terrible play.
Okay, so in this series, in the playoffs, they allow 3.5 goals against. Now, obviously, there's a lot of discussion about Skinner and Campbell and could they have gone to him. We just talked about, the fine details of the defensive game. Gager, is it one more than the other? Is it goaltending, or is it the fine details of the game? Is this a chicken and an egg thing, or is it just you're going to allow 3.5 goals per game, a lot of them at 5-on-5, when both things fail miserably for you?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of both, Dusty. You can't have a sub 900 save percentage and expect to go past one round in the playoffs, let alone getting to the finals, right? But Skinner needs to do a better job of taking goals away from the other team. But like I said, I think I thought they should have played Campbell after, what was that, game 5?
That was after game 4 against the Kings.
4 against the Kings. When he came in, I think they should have played him. Like, I just felt at that point, then the way he went into the playoffs and I talked about Campbell's mindset going, I got to prepare myself. If he gets hurt, I'm going in and we got to go win a Stanley Cup. So you got to, how many coaches told you when the playoffs started, Cass, okay, new season, the regular season doesn't mean a damn thing anymore. And if I had a season like Campbell at that point, that's what I'd be telling myself. Yeah, I sucked this season, but I got a huge chance to redeem myself. I'm just and you look at how he played, man. He looked a lot better than he did even in those games he won at the end of the season. I thought like he looked pretty good. I think he
was sketchy. He was sketchy in the LA, that
little bit. But he still made the saves.
Game five when he came in, he did like that gave me pause because he was dialed in that game. That gave me pause. Here's a question, and I asked Tommy this, and I'll ask you guys the same thing. And when we look at Skinner's goals against average, and save percentage rather, and people are like, it's really big. It doesn't look good. But how many of the goals he let in, Gager, and I'll ask you this, were bad goals?
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying, but you're looking at prior goalies with the Oilers in the playoffs wearing those backbreakers, those squeaky ones. Yeah, no,
squeaky goals that shouldn't go in. Like again, I think to me, and I said this, and I got all kinds of heat on the text line yesterday. But I was like, Skinner was average. He was middling, and he needed to be good. And he said as much himself, like where he needed to be better. And it's true. I think he was very, very honest and clear about that. And accurate in his assessment, but he was just average. Like there was lots of goals where he got completely hung out to dry, and that hurt his save percentage, hurt the goals against. And as Jay Woodcroft said, you win as a team, loses as a team.
I think you could say his stats were shit. His play wasn't as bad because some of those times he was hung out to dry by his team, which is that whole conversation we were just having, right, Gager? Like he was meh, but he could have been better, and the team could have helped him more. I mean,
if they would have tightened up a little bit more, the way that Skinner plays, like he's positionally sound, right? But it wasn't great, but it wasn't as bad as the numbers show. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I find it interesting with Gager because Gager pointed out, he came in, did what he did in game 4. They could have gone to him in game 5, and that wasn't like, oh, now you can't go back to Skinner ever. I mean, this was a team that kind of went back and forth on goaltenders the whole year. We kind of expected when you got to the playoffs that you'd probably see both guys start a game at some point, Gager. Like, I was talking with Rashag about it on my show today. Like, the fact that they never, ever went to Jack Campbell at any point when you have a rookie goalie who was pulled 4 times, and last time I guess doesn't count because that one's over, but he was pulled 4 times, 3 times leading into that game. To me, they had no faith in Jack Campbell because if not, there were spots in these playoffs where you could have started Jack Campbell, and the fact that they didn't makes me think that they were like, we cannot go to this guy, which to me is a little surprising, even with how shitty he was for a good chunk of the year.
But I think, Dusty, like that goes to like again, the stats say one thing, but if your team is leaving you hanging out to dry at times, it says another. And to me, that's probably how Woodcroft and management felt about Skinner's play. Is like, has he been great? No, but we've left him out. Just
Yeah, but when you watch, do you think when you watch Skinner play during the playoffs this year, would you have thought to yourself, "There's no way we can go away from this guy"?
No.
Right. So to
again,
me, that means you could have gone away from him.
Maybe, yeah.
I think they should have gone to him the next game after that game in LA. It's troubling to think that Woodcroft this is my guy. This is what I'm doing. I'm not veering away from it. It's his job to win us the series. I guess they all go as far as we can. Not willing to go to Campbell and just trying to use him as a lift or at certain times. I didn't. It's tough to go in like in an elimination game after not playing for a long time. But this guy's played in big games before.
I mean, he
did
came
that,
and
right?
saved the season in Game 4.
Yeah, so he did it. Like he showed he could do it, and he wasn't. It's not like he put him in just to. He put him in with the thinking that he was going to come back in that game. So if you have that much faith that your team can turn this around, I don't see how you don't have the faith and to start him as well. Just another kind of a little bit of out coaching there, and just thinking, probably trying to think too much in this series.
I think, if we would have said at the beginning of the playoffs, what are we going to be talking about after the Oilers get eliminated? We wouldn't have thought it would have been this soon, but I think we would have thought it could have been defensive zone breakdowns and goaltending. I mean, but I never would have thought, Cass, we'd be sitting here and I'd be asking you at the end of the second round, the top 6 was more of a concern than the bottom 6 in the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, Nuge really didn't do anything. Kane blew a kiss this series, and that was about it. Hyman was obviously banged up, wasn't practicing. I mean, he was trying to grind it out. Yamo was pretty much a non-factor, if not a negative. And Leon Draisaitl had 1 point and was -7 in the last 4 games. So what happened to the team's biggest strength, Cass?
I don't know.
I know. That's the thing, right? Like, do you just have to give the Golden Knights credit for being that much better 5-on-5? Like,
but what's hard about that is, like, there was moments when they weren't, right? Like when Edmonton was moving their feet, when they were aggressive, when Kane was physical, when Draisaitl was physical and engaged, when they were moving the puck up ice, when they were aggressive and attacking, they were the better team. And we saw that where again, just to go to the last game in Game 6, you saw that throughout the first period. And then the foot just came off the gas, and it was like everyone, I don't want to say they panicked, because I don't think it was panic, but it was just like the decision making and the choices just kind of went away from what made them successful. Choices with the puck, trying to be too fancy, getting stuck on the exterior instead of moving the puck across the ice, like, opening up the zone and then being aggressive attacking. So, yeah.
And they did all this without Phil Kessel. Jeez, imagine if they had him in the lineup.
Nielsen, Cass, engaging with you on the Nielsen Media Coolbet Network, coolbet.com, presenting sponsor of Two Guys and a Goalie for the last few years. If you're not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, go to coolbet.com and use the code 2Guys when you do sign up. What was the biggest moment? Like, I don't know if there was a turning point, because this was an evenly played series. Like, it's 2-2 through 4 games. It's not like it was 2-0 and this series turns. But in your guys' opinion, what's it? I mean, you could say Brossoit injury. You could say the Pietrangelo suspension. You could say that Broberg penalty when they looked like they were controlling Game 5. Gager, what was the biggest moment, the most important moment of this series, in your opinion?
I would go with the Broberg penalty, and then Janmark taking the high stick, because I feel at that point the Oilers were playing that style, and the game slipped away, and they never really got that back until, I would say, last night's first period was as close as you got in that game. And really, when you look at the core pieces, Jack Eichel had a better series than Connor McDavid. Mark Stone was impactful. Leon when it mattered. I guess Leon was good at the beginning, but he scored 4 in a losing cause. So I don't really look at that as having an impact on the series. And if you want to match up goalies, yeah, Hall was better than Skinner, and Pietrangelo was better than Darnell Nurse was. So their big pieces, the foundational pieces, outplayed them, and then you just went through the finishing touches and the sort of support roles for the Edmonton Oilers weren't as good as the support roles that the Knights has. They got outplayed in those where you would think that's really where the Knights might have been overall had better depth, but I think the top end was much higher with the Oilers, and they didn't have it.
Cass, what about you, buddy? What was the biggest moment in this series?
Was the 5-on-3. Yep. It was a Broberg penalty, Janmark high stick. That you had all the momentum. You were up a couple of goals in what would have been a big swing game, like to win 2 in a row. And you gave it back, the momentum. You gave it back with that. Again, horrible call on Broberg made by the up ice official. But then you compounded it by taking the 5-on-3 and giving up 2 goals because of it. And so Janmark's high stick, I mean, if I was going to point to the 2, I would say it was the Janmark's high stick even more than the Broberg, right? Because
just
bad call, but that 5-on-3 is what absolutely sunk you.
I found, I don't know if did you find that there was a little bit of embellishment on Ekholm's part? Like, I don't know if it was true, but that high sticking call that they missed yesterday, did they just not call it
because his arms went up?
Yeah, I think that
he's cut pretty good.
Like, he was cut really good, but no, there was a play earlier where he kind of went down a little easier. I forget what period it was in, and I think the refs thought, "Oh, he's embellishing," and I think they see this is where it's really tough. You can't do that kind of stuff, and it comes back to haunt you when you try to make the refs look bad with a little bit of the head flip back or going down easy, because when it's a real penalty and you throw the head back, literally because you do get stuck in the face, and they think, oh, he's doing it again, and then they realize, oh, whoops, he really got stuck in the face with a stick. I think there's an advantage of playing the game honestly, right? And fighting through things, because, oh, this guy doesn't usually do this. Something happened. You get the benefit of the doubt instead of, trying to look for something when it's not there. And then when it really happens, it's the old cry wolf situation.
Boys, how about the suspensions? How did that factor in this thing? Like, did the Oilers handle that well enough from a mental side of things?
Well, I don't.
I thought it was a little strange that Draisaitl was faking 2-handers at Pietrangelo yesterday. I mean, if you're Alex Pietrangelo, but if you're Alex Pietrangelo, what are you thinking? You're thinking, I'm in this guy's fucking head so bad that he's pretending he's going to 2-hand me multiple times in the hockey game. To me, that comes back to the maturity thing. Like, let it go and go play your best,
and
which
on,
he didn't.
And move on. I mean, Pietrangelo should have still been suspended. I mean, that was a joke.
He should have never played a game 6. That had to be 2 games. It was a fail. But he was also +4 in that game and shut them down big time. So, he's really good. If he gets the 2 games like we would have thought of, this series would probably still be going.
Could be different,
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if they handled that overly well. So I think there's some learning from this. And look, Vegas has been to the conference finals 4 times in the last 6 years, right? Like, Vegas has been through this stuff. They've almost won it. They've been back there a couple of times, trying to get back to the final. This is a team that's probably learned a lot more along the way than Edmonton Oilers has so far. But this is different, right? Like last year when they lost to the Avalanche, it was like, wow, what a step. Conference final. Lost to an Avalanche team that was absolutely shit kicking everybody in the playoffs, went on to win the Stanley Cup. So I don't even know if that would have been viewed as a disappointment. Gager, for these players this year, this is the biggest gut punch that they've had to feel along the way, isn't it?
Yeah, because they're going to look back and see all these opportunities and what they could have and should have done and go, oh my God, it was sitting right there for you. But I mean, was the road paved to get to the finals and possibly win a cup? Yes. it wouldn't have been easy though. Like the Oilers aren't the Colorado Avalanche of last year by any means. Like I don't think you could say at the beginning of the second round here, there was 8 teams. You could argue each one of them had a good opportunity to win the Stanley Cup, and that's essentially what we've seen. I mean, this is crazy seeing the big dogs fall early, where like all these teams that had the highest odds to win the cup are now gone, right? Like it's crazy to think this way. So, there's look, I love what Ken Holland did at not gambling the future when I think the job that he did this year has set this team up for multiple stabs at this. They're going to be an opportunity next year to win the cup again. They're going to be one of the favorites going into next season. So yeah, it's there's going to be a couple more opportunities to do this for sure. It's just it's so hard. 2 more. Yeah, it's 2 more. 2 more shots.
2 more before Draisaitl's contract runs out, and then you have to see.
Yeah.
Well, and they're going to have to pay him a shitload if you're going to keep him, right? So, but they would, but they have to find a way. So, couple really good cracks out here. Ekholm, right, Cast? 2 more years on Ekholm as well. So we'll see what happens from that standpoint. There is a Game 7 tonight, boys. And look, we'll have more on the Oilers, obviously, on Thursday's episode. I'm sure we'll have more thoughts that pop up. We've already got people asking, like, what do you do with the lineup next? We got lots of time to get to that here on Two Guys and a Goalie for sure. Game 7 tonight, Dallas and Seattle. Winner advances, obviously, to take on Vegas. We got Carolina and Florida, which should be a great series over on the other side in the East. If you want to bet on this game tonight, go to our presenting sponsors, coolbet.com, click on exclusives, and my man Huss out of Winnipeg has this set up tonight. Ride with Huss. Pavelski with a goal, which I don't mind in a big game like this. Rupe hits 2 points. Kraken under 2.5 goals, and the Dallas Stars win. So Huss is banking on Ottinger Gager to get the job done tonight against a Seattle team that they won't go away. So I don't know what to expect from this game tonight.
I got the Kraken, and they're just they're so complete. I just think that I don't know what it is with these expansion teams, man. And I'm kind of interested to see a Vegas Seattle conference final, the battle of the expansions. So I'll probably throw on the Kraken jersey tonight.
Cass, what do you think happens tonight, buddy?
I lean towards Dallas. I think Ottinger has a big night.
Yeah, he's been great. I think he's like
goalie.
23-2-3 after a loss this season or something. So at home tonight, I think they probably get that done as well. All right, that's going to do it for our first post-Oilers season episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. We'll have a lot more to discuss on Thursday, obviously, and we keep her going all the way through the offseason as well. So do not go anywhere. Tell your friends to subscribe to the Two Guys and a Goalie podcast. Gager and Cass, I wish we had at least one more round to dive into with the oil, but
I know.
There's always next year, boys. There's always next year. See you later, guys.
See you later.